Well, welcome. Ooh, that's a little hot. That's okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm Alex Kent from the Robinson Film Center. This is our Science on Screen series. This is our second year on this, which we're privately and publicly really proud of. This is if you don't know, this series is kind of a big deal, especially for art houses around the country. There's a couple dozen of them that get this grant from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and the Coolidge Corner Theater, which is a beautiful, gorgeous, amazing marquee of an art house near Boston in Brookline, Massachusetts. But they have this Science on Screen program, and the program is specifically designed to take any kind of film. It can be specifically about, it can be a documentary, it can be a fiction film, it can be anything. But the idea is to put an expert in science, any type of science, and let them show you the movie through that lens. So if you ever have, if you're ever one of those people who watch a film, I watch space, I think my example right now is I watch space films and they're going deep space travel, and they get all the way to the planet, and you always wonder, I always go, well, how did they stop? How do you stop in space? Because there's no way to stop. We're going to actually tackle that question hopefully later in the year. Somebody's going to tell us, well, if you were traveling 90 light years, it would take you, 20 years to stop, which I think would be pretty fascinating. So you better have a good set of brakes. But this is a program that we're really proud of, and before we introduce our guest, we have another quick one coming up on, let's see, Seven o'clock on August 29th. Or I'm sorry, October 29th. Mark your calendars, we're way out there. But 2 days before Halloween, we're going to show the nicest, sweetest Halloween film ever made, The Exorcist. And we're going to specifically talk about the science of fear. Why, I think somebody, one of these two in our newsletter tried to say, why do your toes curl when you watch a scary movie? What's the actual biochemical reaction to that? So we're actually going to talk about why we're attracted to scary movies and what the pleasure of that is in watching it. And our guests for that will be LSU psychologist Meredith Nelson and Willis Knighton clinical psychologist Stephen Abney. So we're kind of excited about that. We also have a couple other orders of business. You got a survey as you are coming in. We're trying to learn more about what types of movies you like to see and what types of series you like to see. So if you could answer that brief questionnaire and hand it to us as you leave, that would be very, very helpful. So, well, our guest tonight is fun. He came here in May. It was, I think, like May 28th this year, and we did Antarctica, a year on ice. And Charles Kirkland, the third, had spent several seasons in Antarctica as a medic, whose job was kind of a really cool one. Shorthand would be, he's there to keep people alive while they're doing scientific research in an extreme environment. He makes sure that people are doing these things safely, but he also has a background in high altitudes in parks. He's going next, I believe, to Nepal. And tonight he's here to talk about a pretty great movie about which you're going to learn all about one of the most impossible peaks on the planet to reach the summit as. It's supposedly quite a bit more difficult to reach than Everest and maybe even K2. So we're excited to have somebody who has special experience in keeping people safe in those environments, and somebody who can very specifically talk about what it's like to try and live and work and excel in high altitude environments. Your body undergoes some really serious changes. So without further ado, let's welcome Charles Kirkland. Oh, wait a minute.
Hi, Alex. How's it
going? Good. All right, you'll make it. All right. Well, why don't you just...
Hold on, I got a big plan for you. Hold on.
All right, good.
On belay.
Don't worry. He's a trained professional. If you do break that speaker, I'm going to charge you. Nice. Is he going to make it?
Tell me the hole's so small.
You know what? I think it's a longer route, but it's probably worth it. You might want to take the stairwell and come down through the door. Is that
Go
okay?
to the balcony now.
All right. If you could do that, that'd be great. I hope he makes it. It's pretty cold in the booth, actually. So it's like 10 degrees colder than it is here. Well, he'll be here in a moment. We are just absolutely thrilled to have you here. One of the greatest things that you can do for us is series like this is word of mouth. We can tell people all we want to come to our movies and come to these programs. It doesn't mean a thing until a moviegoer goes to another moviegoer and says, come see this. That means a lot more than us saying it. So if you can spread the word, that'd be great. Here he is. He's not injured. All right. Here we go. Are you okay?
I think so. The hole's really small. So much for those great plans. What are the plans of mice and men? How are y'all doing tonight? Good? Good. Great. This is an awesome movie tonight we're going to watch. Two of the climbers I know pretty well, Conrad Anker and Jimmy Chin. These are the most accomplished climbers I've ever known. The movie we're going to watch is probably the most extreme climbing there is. It's ice climbing, it's wall climbing, mountain climbing, and the works. So something I would never ever do. I've rescued guys like this, but I would never do it. But what I want to talk about was they're going to be an altitude of around 21,000 feet. Which is barely into what we call the death zone. When you're above 21,000, your brain's dying every day. And I'll get my breath here in a second. That was altitude for me. Anyway, so what I want to do is talk a little bit about altitude. Can we roll the slides? So this is a one shot of Everest. But we're just going to talk a little bit about altitude and what happens with our body when we are at altitude. And our body's a pretty amazing thing. Next. Cool. So what happens is as we get up higher, there's less pressure. And we're not going to get into a long physics lesson and everything else, but there's less pressure, which means less molecules of oxygen per square inch, which means every breath I take in, I'm not taking in as much oxygen, which affects the way our body metabolizes very quickly. We never have it happen. I worked on Mount Rainier for 7 years and never saw anything happen below 8,000 feet. People that come up to Denver and they say, oh God, acute mountain sickness. They probably just, there's a little less oxygen at Mile High versus Shreveport, but they don't have acute mountain sickness. They just need to kind of get used to the area a little bit. So what happens is our bodies are trying to compensate for the fact there's less oxygen. So immediately we start breathing faster. Our heart starts breathing faster. Our vessels get bigger because they're trying to get more oxygen there, which causes leakage of fluids into the lungs and the brains, causing some pretty serious stuff. This is a condition called hypoxia, which means hypo meaning low, oxygen. That's all it comes down to is dealing with altitude, is dealing with low oxygen situations. Cool. Next. Cool. So typically, like I just said a minute ago, we start breathing faster. Any of y'all been to altitude? You can raise your hands. How did y'all go, Vicki? How were y'all, Vicki? Victoria, I'm sorry.
14,000.
14,000, which is Rainier. 14,411 is Rainier, which you definitely see people getting some altitude issues. Who's been? Anybody been 20? Anybody been 20? Cool. Where'd you go?
19.
Good deal. Where at?
Kilimanjaro.
Gotcha. And John, you were where? You're South America.
Cotopaxi, Ecuador.
About 19.5 or so, or yeah, gotcha. Yeah, those are extreme, and those altitudes we're talking about are what we call true altitudes. They don't take into account barometric pressure changes and all sorts of stuff going on. So you may be 19,000 feet, but based on a front moving through, it could be 21, 22,000 feet. Believe me, you'll feel it like crazy. It's pretty amazing to watch. So typically we breathe faster, our pulse goes up. Our blood pressure increases, trying to get more oxygen to the brain. The brain's very selfish when it comes to getting this oxygen here. And then believe it or not, because of all the acids you're dumping out, because of all the increased carbon dioxide, your body starts peeing more. urinating more, which means you're going to get dehydrated even faster at altitude. Long term, if you're up there at least a week, your body produces more red blood cells. Think of it as adding more boxcars onto a train. I can add more, so I can carry more oxygen with it. So your body goes, oh, you need more of these, so it adds them on there. It's phenomenal what the body does, trying to deal with the fact that you're at altitude. And you get this amazing, your lung function, you start able to take more air in, your muscles start expanding more, and you actually develop a way to be more efficient with oxygen. The Sherpas are born like this. They're born at 20,000 or more feet, and they're born like this. So it's amazing what their bodies do, and when you're born up there, you live in that your entire life. Next. So what happens is our body's going to adapt to the altitude, and then everybody's different. I know some people who came up to Rainier and they hit 10,000 feet and they hit the wall. It's just, they got general malaise, they had a headache, they were vomiting. That was it for them. Other people can go up to 20,000 without any problems. It just depends on the person, depends on how in shape you are, depends on what we found is people that carbo load and who hydrate well tend to do better altitude than those who don't. Now guess who does really well the first 24 hours? The first 24 hours at altitude, what group of people have a bad habit do really, really well? Smokers. They've already trained their body to do a little better without oxygen anyway, okay? The first 24 hours, they do really well. They'll be at 18,000 feet smoking a cigarette, and you're going, how can you be doing that? Oh my God. The next day, they start getting worse, okay? But initially, they do pretty well, believe it or not. It's kind of funny. And again, if you've got any type of diabetics, people any type of asthma, people like that just don't do very well at altitude. So I'm a big fan of listening to your body. If your body's saying I shouldn't do this, then don't do it. I mean, your body would really tell you very quickly, like, this isn't the right day for me or whatever else. I summited Rainier 12 times, which is 14,411. It took 20 times to do that. A couple times I hit the wall, I had nothing left. I could see the summit, but I knew that if I got in trouble, and I was the medic on Rainier, if I got in trouble, they were going to rescue me, and I would never heard the end of it, okay? So I said, I'm not going to go up. So, and sometimes the weather just turned us back. In this movie, they made the right decision on one of their ascents that they decided not to go up, and it was the right decision. As much as it hurt them, and every part of their body saying, let's go for the summit, they made the right call not to go up. Next. So we're going to talk about real quickly AMS, which is acute mountain sickness, HAPE, which is high altitude pulmonary edema, and high altitude cerebral edema. And basically, all these are here is fluid in the lungs and fluid in the brain. So, and both of those are bad, okay? HAPE and HACE are bad, okay? We don't want to get those. Next. Cool. So everybody, this is what I tell everybody. If you go to altitude, you're going to get AMS, okay? Everybody gets it, okay? It's just part of the deal. And everybody has a headache at altitude. I mean, y'all been up there at the higher heights, you probably had a headache for most of the time. Most of the time it occurs above 8,000 feet. For some people, you know, about a little over 6,000 or so, you can see it happen. Typically starts within 24 hours once you get there. And typically, if you let your body rest and acclimatize, you'll be okay. It's the problem is, I feel horrible, and we're going to keep trying to go up. That's the people that we had to rescue on Rainier and other peaks, okay? Listen to your body. I need to just take it easy today, hydrate, carbo load. We're going to head up tomorrow or something like that. Next. Cool. So basically, here's what you feel like with AMS. It feels just like a hangover. I don't know the old had a hangover before. That's exactly what it feels like, okay? A headache, nausea, they're hungry, and they're having a problem with sleeplessness. And one of these things is called Cheyne-Stokes breathing. It's kind of like just while they're sleeping, okay? And so most people aren't sleeping very well when they have these sleep apnea effects during when you're at altitude like that. And there's just this general malaise with folks with AMS. They just don't feel good. I feel like horrible. It feels like maybe early signs of the flu or something. Just listen to your body and acclimatize, and you'll be fine. Cool. That was interesting. Next. Cool. So here's how we treat this. Don't go up until your signs and symptoms go down. Until you start feeling better, then we start going up. It could be a day or whatever else. Like with Everest. John, how long does it take do they normally take to climb Everest? Starting from base to all the way up?
6 weeks.
That's 6 weeks. And most of that time is spent sitting around waiting for your body to acclimatize and make more red blood cells and get used to that area. I know Denali takes 6 weeks to get up it. Just basically most of the time is spent acclimatized. Rainier, you can be up and down in 24 hours. And that's what they all tried to do, is get up and down out of the window so nobody had any signs or symptoms, which worked out pretty well. Over-the-counter meds are fine. Give them ibuprofen, all is fine for a headache. Diamox is a brand name for a drug called acetazolamide, which is basically a diuretic. I mean, so if they get fluid in their lungs or they're starting to get fluid in their brains, give them something that makes them pee off the extra fluids, and they tend to get a little bit better. Some groups will have O2 with them, kind of help your body reset. And if there's no mental status changes or respiratory distress, just sit there and rest that day. But if they're having respiratory distress or they're not knowing who they are or they're doing weird things, get them down fast. It's amazing what just 1,000 feet will do in terms of getting somebody better. We had a guy on Rainier, 13,000 feet, was doing a thing called paradoxical undressing. He thought he was hot. He was ripping all his clothes off. He was naked. And my buddy and I were going, I'm not going to tackle him. I'm not going to tackle him either. So it was kind of an interesting situation. But he had a combination of hypothermia and altitude sickness. And he was not in his right mind. So but just the key is listen to your body. And that's what I try to tell everybody in any type of extreme situations. Next. So the golden rules. Basically, it's okay to get it because you don't know what your body's going to do when you get up there. AMS, again, is acute mountain sickness. It's not okay to die from it, okay? The people that die from it are people who continue to push themselves or try to go higher while they got the signs and symptoms. Everything's AMS until proven otherwise. So if they got a headache, I'm going to treat it like it's acute mountain sickness until proven otherwise. Okay, we're going to take it easy and go from there with it. Again, like I said earlier, and I sound like a broken record, never ascend with any AMS symptoms. If you're getting worse, go down. Get them down fast. That's the only thing. I mean, it's amazing. I've seen people go from going really bad and get them 1,000 feet down, and they're fine. Life is good again. It's amazing what 1,000 feet can do if you can get them down. And we never leave somebody alone. They could get worse overnight to where it could get really bad and they could die. So we don't ever leave them alone. We sleep in the same tent with them or something like that. That's kind of the golden rules of AMS. That's kind of the serious stuff. I don't know. Normally I'll spend kind of 3-4 hours talking to my altitude folks about this and going over all the physiology and the chemistry of what goes on when we are at altitude. But if you're specifically going to the Himalayas, there are some things to kind of watch out for. One of those is, next. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Again, okay, sorry, let me back out. Okay, so, no, go back where you're. So these are kind of how we prevented all this. Is once you get above 10,000 feet, only go 1 to 10,000 feet per day. That gives your body time to kind of acclimatize. Have a rest day every 3,000 feet. Don't go higher with any signs or symptoms. Any problems, go down. That's no debate. That's a no-brainer. If anybody's having any real problems, go down. Carry high and sleep low. We'll typically carry a lot of our gear up, 1,000, 1,500 feet up, and then we'll sleep down low again and kind of let our body get introduced to the high altitude, but then we come down and sleep at a lower level, and we do better. Obviously, drinking at altitude is not a good idea, okay? What we found out, I was at a camp in Antarctica called AGAP, which is Antarctica's Gamburtsev province. We were at 12,000 feet for 12 weeks. One beer was like having a 12-pack. It was unbelievable. And we were on a drug called Diamox, which makes all beer taste horrible anyway. So just trying to get that one beer down was horrible. But because there's not enough oxygen to help process the alcohol, it went straight to your brain. It was just crazy what happened. So avoid alcohol typically. Stay hydrated, well-fed, light exercise, obviously, and watch your signs and symptoms. Listen to your body and what's going on with it. And then there are certain prophylactic medications. Some people start taking Diamox before they go. Other people are prone to have brain swelling will take a drug called Decadron before they go. But to me, if I got to take these drugs to climb, maybe this isn't my sport. I just, I don't know. If I'm taking these drugs, that's just me, okay? Kind of go from there. Now, so if you go to the Himalayas, there's things to watch out for. Next, watch out for this guy, okay? So gotta watch out for this guy. He can There's always, there's books on this, there's all sorts of stuff. I have no idea. My climber buddies don't even talk about it. They think it's a joke. So anyway, next thing. Don't just look at your GPS. This is an actual picture, okay? This is what their GPS said. And the guy said, why don't you take the trail above that? I said, okay, good idea. So get a, see what the locals are saying up there, you know? And they're very good. Nepal and those places like that are very tourist oriented. So they're willing to help you out and tell you the safe and right things to do, rather than, no, I've got my GPS, I'll do this. Only men would do that, okay? So whatever. So next. Get a Sherpa. Okay, these guys can carry at least their weight. They're unbelievable what they can carry, and they were born in altitude, so their bodies react like ours never thought about doing. So it's amazing what they can do. They went on strike a few years ago because typically it's 60 grand to climb Everest. That's what it cost. And the Sherpas were only getting hundreds of dollars of that. So they kind of went on strike and trying to hold out for a little bit bigger piece of the pie, which I think is fair. Nepal is based on tourism, so this is one of the things that is a pretty big deal up there. But now with the recent earthquake, and the reason I'm going to be going up there next late February and March is we're going to open up a clinic. And the cholera and a bunch of injuries have happened. And we're going to go up there to a clinic and give medical care. And then we're also going to do a water line from one of the towns to another. It's about 3 miles long to get them some fresh water so that the cholera is everywhere up there right now. It's just horrible. So I'm looking forward to that trip. But these guys are amazing what they do. And next, know your limitations. I can't tell you guys as a medic on Mount Rainier and also in Glacier National Park, the times that people just known here's what I can do, and here, you know, they weren't listening to their body or whatever else is the reason why I had to rescue them. Okay? It's important to know your limitations. I'm not saying don't push your limitations. I'm not saying go for the peak. Go for it. But no, you know what? I've hit the wall. I can't do it anymore. And let's turn around and go back versus, yeah, you try to go a little further, now we got to come rescue. And trying to do rescues at 28,000 feet, most helicopters won't go that high. Okay, the air is too thin for those guys. So there's dead bodies all over Everest. And several of the paths you go on, you're walking past dead bodies. They're still frozen. They can't get them down. On Mount Rainier, there's still bodies that we're finding all the time up there. Somebody disappeared 10 years ago. Well, the way the glaciers are retreating, now there's like an arm sticking out, you know, and that's the guy who disappeared 10 years ago snowboarding or whatever else, and in the wrong place where he shouldn't have been, places like that. So just know your limitations and do your research before you go on those. So, and that's really all I wanted to show y'all and talk to y'all about, was just a real basic preliminary thing. What these guys did in this movie was, I'll turn this off. What they did was they're dealing with altitude, okay, and up to 21.5 or so, but they're also dealing -20, -30 degree weather. So not only are they dealing with low oxygen, now they're dealing with extreme cold. So they got hypothermia stuff going on, they've got high altitude stuff going on, and they're exerting themselves off the scale in terms of the wall climbing, the ice climbing they're doing. But these are 3 Class Act climbers, and it's really a good movie. I like the way it's done. It's gets into the psychology of climbers. This also gets into their obsession, their loyalty, and also their devotion to one another. You got to trust the guy who's on the same rope as you, or you're a dead person. So it's kind of interesting how that all works. So that's normally I just gave you on 20 minutes what we normally cover in 4 to 6 hours for high altitude. But are there any questions about altitude or Everest or any of these guys at all? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I saw Everest last week, and I was surprised when I saw the movie that at night they were drinking a lot. Was that just for the movie, or was that true? Did that happen?
Climbers tend to drink a lot. Excuse me, I'll have a drink. So, they tend to drink a lot. It's part of it's, you know, the sleeplessness problem. I think that's going to help with it, which actually makes it worse. Yeah. And they're sitting around doing nothing. I mean, you're sitting around doing nothing.
So that was true. They really were drinking.
They were. Okay. But did that really play effect on what happened at Everest? Everest was and there's been several books written on this. What I found in most mountain climbing accidents and outdoor wilderness mass casualty incidents, it was never one decision. It was typically 1, 2, 3, 4. It was just like this cataclysmic effect why everything happened. Same thing with Everest. There were several bad decisions made about should they gone up, did they stay up too long, everything else, and it just kind of built on each other. Then you had that horrible aftermath that happened in that event in Everest back in the 80s. But yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I've read the book. And so, yes.
I'm just curious about the list of things to do to help. I guess traditionally cocoa leaves. Is that a myth that people would chew, like Sherpas and Naves would chew cocoa
Yeah,
leaves?
and think about it, the coca leaves, and I believe they're a vasoconstrictor. I'm almost positive that's where cocaine comes from, believe it or not, also as vasoconstrictor, which actually could hinder it. There's been a lot of talk about things to take. Ginkgo is a Ginkgo biloba, or however you pronounce that herb. That became the hot topic for a lot of years to climb. Oh yeah, take Ginkgo. Well, they proved it didn't do anything, you know. And now we got guys taking Viagra before they climb. So I don't know. I just, go figure, you know. But there is some truth to that. Probably what we found out was Viagra. Let me be really tactful about this. It is a site-specific vasodilator, but it also vasodilates the pulmonary artery, which may cut down on some of the leakage into the lungs. And so, believe it or not, there is a chance Viagra might, Pfizer's hoping that this will be another wonder drug for everything, from mountain climbing to whatever else, you know. So, but they've done a lot of research on it. But the best thing we found from all my climbing buddies is they love to carbo load and they love to hydrate. I mean, literally all the time, because between the cold and the altitude, they're having to urinate a lot. But they just found it better if they're hydrating really, really well. So that's the stuff. That's the latest stuff that I know about. Yes, Vicki.
Yes, I have 2 questions. The first one is kind of a medical question. In the category of being the worst aunt ever, we brought my nephew snow skiing. It was early season, so we were above tree line, and he got altitude sickness. And so we just brought him back down to the thing. Anyway, when we came back to find him, he had been throwing up what looked like blueberries. What is that?
Say it. Blue what?
It looked like he was throwing up blueberries.
Wow.
Is that common, or?
Had he eaten blueberries?
Well, no, it looked like a pile of blue bubbles.
Wow.
Okay, so that.
If you said greenish color, I would kind of say bile, but it doesn't. I'm not sure, Vicki. I have no idea.
So the second question is, how do you know the 2 climbers in this film?
I met Jimmy on Mount Rainier. Jimmy Chin is one of the climbers. He's my kind of climber. I like all these 3 climbers, but Jimmy is a very low-key, quiet, kind of there to do business kind of climber. Conrad, I met him on Mount Vincent in Antarctica. Conrad has done all the 7 summits of the world. He is the he-man of mountain climbing. A little more boisterous, a little more out there, but he's also able to back up, you know, he can walk the talk or talk the walk, whatever else. He does what he wants to. But I met him on Mount Vincent. We were at the base camp. I was the medic down there, and he came up and he did Mount Vincent in Antarctica by himself, solo. Didn't take a team up or anything. So he's a pretty accomplished climber. Renan, the young guy who's there, Conrad and Jimmy are his mentor. He's a young guy, but he's a very, very accomplished young climber also. So, but they're class acts, and I don't even begin to approach what those guys did. I just did the rescue stuff, so it's all worked out. Other questions? We all good? Cool. Well, being said, I think we're good to go. So the photography in this movie is amazing, and hope you enjoy it. And like I said, this has a happy ending. That's all I'm going to say about it. No bad ending.